What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Reddit video here on the Life Stories channel. My name's Dylan, and today we're going to be looking at some stories from the subreddit Tales from the Customer. So sit back, relax and enjoy the show. You don't get to decide who is and who isn't allergic to something, period. So this has basically just happened, and apologise for the ranting and the mobile format. My boyfriend and I were out for an anniversary lunch. We went to a slightly fancy place because it's a celebration, but somewhere we'd been before, so we knew it and, most importantly, trusted them. This is because my boyfriend has celiac disease. He was diagnosed years ago before going gluten-free as a fad began. This means zero bread, zero pasta, zero pastry, simple enough to understand, right? Apparently not. So we went to this place before because they claimed to have contamination-free areas for preparing dishes for those who requested it. They also had specific free products, including gluten-free bread and gluten-free pasta. They were as good as their word. My boyfriend had a great meal and didn't have any pains or repercussions afterwards, something uncommon for us. It was a no-brainer to go there again, and checked online to make sure there weren't any bad reviews or red flags about dining with allergies. Not a crossword. This time was different. We got there in good time, were sat down and ordered drinks and decided on what we wanted. The menu, as had done before, clearly stated the gluten-free options available. We'd seen online that someone had ordered gluten-free filled pasta, which is something my boyfriend loves. Our initial waitress was as helpful as anything when we asked about it, saying that they did indeed have filled pasta, but served it in a slightly different sauce as the kitchen couldn't promise that the original sauce was safe from cross-contamination. My boyfriend was happy enough with that and ordered it as his entree. He had plain salad as his appetizer, which we were also told was gluten-free. Appetizers come and are eaten, we drink wine and shamelessly flirt because why not, and wait for our entree. They both come out promptly, but it's clear that the sauce served with my boyfriend's pasta is the normal sauce and not the sauce the waitress said would come with it. We queried it, and the waitress said there must have been a mix-up with the normal meal placed at the same time that she didn't have clocked in time. She came back a few minutes later saying that the kitchen had already sent out the gluten-free meal, but were making a new dish already and it would come out as soon as possible. She also comped our appetizers, and she said she'd see if she could sweet talk the shift manager and get us a free dessert since that was our anniversary since we'd been in there for a little longer. I can only say what I saw, which was the waitress going over to a middle-aged woman standing by the bar, talking for a minute and pointing over in our direction. The next thing we know, the woman has sped over to our table and is asking what kind of scam we're pulling. We said nothing since we were confused about why she was being so confrontational, and she started going on about how the pasta was definitely gluten-free and we had no reason to send it back. My boyfriend started to explain that it was the sauce that was the issue since we were only going on what we were told, and apparently it wasn't safe for celiacs. The manager then started snarling about how she was so fed up with the craze and that kids like us, who are in our early 20s, so probably just arrogant millennials to her, are so sensitive that we need all these labels. The waitress brought over the new dish of pasta at that point, but the manager snatched it from her and started taking it back to the kitchen, saying that the precious table couldn't eat anything unless the chef told her that it was all safe to eat. I really wished we'd left then, but the waitress looked so nervous that I felt like we just had to stay so we could tip her well when we finally left. The manager and the food came back a couple of minutes later. She kept a tight hold on the dish after asking sarcastically if we felt safe yet, or does she need to drag the head chef away from his job to please us? My boyfriend said that everything was fine, and even thanked her for her level of care. He's the calm and collected one. I was ready to flip, and started eating as quickly as possible, if anything just to get out of there. I was halfway done with mine anyway, so we just sat and ate until we're both done. I was seething that our anniversary had been ruined so soon by the manager's attitude, but the worst was still to come. We flag down the waitress as soon as we're done and say we want the bill. She says she understands completely and apologises for everything. She's gone for a little while and comes back as white as a sheet. She said she went to the kitchen to check on another order and saw a pasta dish that looked exactly like the dish my boyfriend had, sitting alone on the side. She'd asked if it was meant to be going out, and she was told that it was the one the manager brought back in about 15 minutes ago. The waitress says the manager brought it back out to the customer, but she was told that the manager cornered the chef who was doing the pasta-style dishes and told him to drain some normal pasta, serve it with the gluten-free sauce for a particularly demanding customer who didn't need the gluten-free pasta. Guess who just ate a whole dish of gluten? My celiac boyfriend. The waitress had comped more or less everything but the wine. I insisted that we paid for all of my dishes and they gave her a pretty big tip on top. We didn't know what the deal was with comped meals, but she didn't deserve to lose out on a table because of her manager. To cut out the gruesome bits somewhat, my anniversary afternoon and evening has been and always will be spent with my boyfriend shut in the bathroom as things come out of both ends. His stomach has bloated so much that he looks several months pregnant. He will be having repercussions from this for weeks, and maybe even months. I'm so annoyed that I daren't write a review about this since I'll end up threatening the manager on a very aggressive and personal level. I want to call anyone and everyone, from my mum to the local news, about this. I keep on bearing in mind that if I go nuclear, and I can, then people like the poor waitress who served us will be out of a job. Until I get my head straight, this is the only place I can rant. So thanks, and well done if you got this far. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the fact that he was a celiac, that's almost criminal. It was really dangerous and she should probably make a big stink about it. The manager needs to lose her job. Her bad attitude could have killed the boyfriend of the person that wrote this story. It's kind of disgusting, really. Telling a mobility impaired person to take the stairs. My boyfriend and I travel a lot. He travels for work and I follow him around the state during my free time. I'm a college student, senior, so before I get locked down into a 9-to-5 job next year, I've been enjoying going around to every tiny town that he goes to and eating in all the small cafes and seeing the sights that each has to offer. We travelled down to Fort Worth, Texas to see the only cattle drive currently running in Texas down at the stockyards. We would only be staying one night before moving on to the next town, so we checked into a major chain hotel that we've become loyal to. I drove down from my college town to meet up with him, and he beats me there by about 10 minutes. Now, before we get to the issues, some background. I was injured during a horse training accident and have pretty problematic damage to my back and legs. Because of this, I use a service dog. He is a large breed mountain dog cross and helps me with my balance, forward momentum and retrieving things. As he's been trained to assist a disabled individual, he has completed 2 years of formal training in order to go with me. My boyfriend checks into the hotel as it is his reservation and notes there'll be a service dog in the room. Having a service dog means you're exempt from the pet free as they're classified as medical equipment. That's a new one. Hotels are not housing, so the ADA applies. The woman asks if he still wanted the free upgrade if there was going to be a service dog. Yes. Oh well, the person with the service dog can't use the elevator and you've been placed on the 4th floor. Why not? Because she has a dog with her. You're not going to let a disabled person use the elevator. Again, sir, we're happy to downgrade you to the 1st floor if that's an issue. Nope, I'll let her handle this when she gets here. You have 10 minutes to prepare. What the woman does not know is I handle the ADA compliance training for front desk people at hotels, businesses, restaurants, etc. just to make sure they're not sued or that the fake dog services are not allowed in when they aren't supposed to. I arrive at the hotel and my boyfriend leads me past the front desk, waved at the woman at the front desk and took me past to the elevators at the base of the stairs. What the hell? Does the elevator not work? Why didn't you get moved to 1st floor? The elevator works just fine. Then why? Points to the dog. I immediately turn round and since we've already been checked in and they've officially been out of compliance with federal law, I happily cut the very long line of waiting arrivals. Now I'm not normally this rude and I could have waited my turn, but I'd driven a very long time and was in a lot of pain and needed to go lie down in the hotel room we'd already checked into. Hi, is the elevator broken? No ma'am, unfortunately because you have a dog with you, we cannot allow you into the elevators. Well, do you understand that you're out of compliance with federal law now by not allowing a disabled person to utilise the facilities available to them? My boyfriend noted after that the annoyed customers in line relaxed when I loudly explained my predicament, so I didn't feel all that horrible. I'm sorry mum, but it's this hotel's policy. Which means it trumps the national government's rules? Well, we normally only allow dogs in the first floor rooms. Again, that's out of compliance with the ADA, because if you look at the frequently asked questions page, question number 11, you cannot assign a different room due to having a service animal. Well, you still can't take the elevator. I have a mobility impairment that means I can't use the stairs, so I have a service dog. I'm sorry, but you can't use the elevator. Can I speak to a manager? Sure, one moment. The manager, whose personality is the epitome of a children's TV show host. Hey, how are we doing? Not great. Oh no, how can I fix that? I've been told by your staff that I'm unable to use your elevator due to having a service dog. Unfortunately, I am unable to use the stairs because of the disability that requires me to utilise said service dog. That information is not correct, I'm so sorry. You've been completely misinformed. Great, well, I'm going to go and use the elevator now, is that okay? Of course, you have a wonderful day. So I go up to my hotel room and I'm laying about 10 minutes allowing my back to take a break. I get a phone call to the room. It's the manager apologising and giving us a comp meal for everything. I told him about my consulting work and gave him a hotel location within an hour's drive that I do multiple trainings with, and asked if he'd like to hear more about staying in compliance with the ADA. He of course said yes, so I go downstairs and meet him in the business centre. We spend about an hour and a half talking through the ADA FAQ as a starter to the training. He takes notes and asks important questions. We talk about ESAs and how we aren't even given full exemption of pet fees, etc. And in the end he thanked me and gave us 10,000 hotel points to our account, and we had a wonderful time for the rest of the trip. This is the only example where a manager or higher up has been accepting of the training and was willing to be educated on how to be better. My favourite part of the story is when the boyfriend just left it and waited for OP to handle the situation. He must have been laughing at how naive they were. Front desk must have been rolling their eyes when he said that they should expect OP. Little did they know. She obviously didn't care anymore because she had nothing to lose. I'll start this off backwards because when I found out that the store was closing down and all the employees were going to be laid off anyway, her actions were much more understandable. It's not that bad anyway, but it made me chuckle. Supermarket. I gather it was a local chain. Definitely not as big a store as the major chains, but definitely larger than an individually owned singleton. Number of cash lines was 6, although only 2 and self-check open. Gives you an idea of the size of the store. Anyway, I am the customer and I have about a dozen or so items. I went onto one of the regular lines. It was actually going very slowly as the cashier was spending a fair amount of time with the customer ahead of me. She sounded like maybe she knew him as a regular customer, and he was definitely a senior citizen. Senior. Moving and talking very slowly. I wasn't in a big hurry, so I didn't consider moving lines, and the old guy seemed quite happy to be in conversation. As they finished, he said goodbye to her, and then, very friendly, turned to me and wished me a good day. I smiled and returned the sentiment. He leaves. The cashier turns to me and says, "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" Thinking nothing of it, I cheerfully return the greeting and the transaction goes smoothly. As I'm getting my change, I hear the other cashier greeting the customer in exactly the same way again. Again, not a second thought. Yet. I take my groceries and I'm still putting the bags in my cart. Must have been more items than previously stated because I had 3 bags. Cashier thanks me and says goodbye. I return both the thank you and the goodbye. I'm starting to put my wallet away and getting ready to push my cart away. I hear the cashier address the next customer. "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" The customer is busy loading his groceries and doesn't seem to notice. The cashier repeats, "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" Still nothing from the customer. Cashier stops all movement other than the gum chewing and repeats, "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" Still no response from the customer. Cashier is standing totally still and raises her voice, "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" Customer at this point just stares at her, obviously confused. Louder, "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" I can see the customer totally uncomprehending the situation and stared at his groceries untouched on the belt, back to her, back to the cashier, still totally confused as to why she was not doing the cashier thing. "Welcome to the supermarket, how are you doing today?" Finally, he blinks a few times and says questioningly, "Okay?" She says good, nothing else, but finally starts to ring him. He was like dumbstruck and I left trying not to laugh out loud. Standing there, I heard word for word the greeting once again from the other cashier. Obviously they were instructed that they must greet the customers in this manner, and with her job going away anyway very shortly, she was not about to go through that without being acknowledged as a person by the customer, damn it. That story's golden because 90% of the time you just can't get away with saying that kind of thing or having that kind of attitude within retail. I love it. Well guys, that's it for today's video. If you did enjoy, leave a like rating down below. And I'm sorry if there was a scuffle in the pronunciation last video. It was a little bit rushed and I wasn't in the best headspace. I'll work on improving it as much as possible. With that said, have a good day. Goodbye.